everyone, welcome back to Cowabunga Corner. In this episode, we are talking about the Words and Pictures Museum membership parties. These were fantastic events held once a year. I would go to these parties and it was so thrilling to be there. I started my very first year of learning about the Words and Pictures Museum, which was 1994. I went every year up to 1999, so 6 awesome parties. They knew how to throw a good party. Originally, they held the parties at the Pearl Street Club, which was a place where we had to go upstairs, and they had their bar, their dance floor, and tables where we all sat at. It was a fun event. Everyone was just getting to know each other, hanging out. I really enjoyed it. In fact, that was the area where I really feel like I got to know Kevin. Kevin Eastman at the 1994 Words and Pictures party. We were hanging out, talking, and I just really enjoyed that. It was a surprise to even be there since the day before we didn't even know the Words and Pictures Museum existed. We had so much fun there, and then it just became something that we had to do normally. We would get to see some people every year that we looked forward to. We started to make normal friends out in Northampton, so it became a getaway. And I enjoyed it. Every year, I looked forward to this one big drive out to Northampton to enjoy the weekend. Now, we started off at the Roundhouse Museum, which was a smaller building than where they end up moving to. That's why they were having the parties at the Pearl Street, because it did not have as much room. So after they moved into the new location, they felt that they can hold the parties there instead of over at the Pearl Street, which was great. This means during the party, we could also wander around the museum, my favorite floor being the 2nd floor, but the parties were usually held up on the 4th floor. So we'd go up there, they'd have their setup up there for us all to hang out, little tables and stuff. But it went around the full museum. Everyone was throughout the place. You can have the people who was hanging out on the 3rd floor just talking, the people on the 2nd floor drawing on the electric chalkboard or the normal chalkboard, goofing off around on there. And there was the people enjoying the main room where everyone was hanging out, which was the 4th floor. That was the main place to go. If they were going to have a speech or something, it was going to happen up on the 4th floor. It was so thrilling to be there for this. And we got to get time to go around, look at the different displays that they would have up. There was the rotating display that was on the 3rd floor, so there was always something different each year on that floor to go and observe what artists they had on display. And it was fun because they would have an event made out of the weekend. So there would be like an autograph session thing during the day, and then in the evening was the party, and the guest from the autograph session would be at the party hanging out. And one of the most fun events that I remember during one of these parties was they did a fun game of win, lose, or draw. We were divided into teams, and some of the guests were on each team. And let's just say that drawing board, well, one of the guests was not too thrilled that they were losing. So the drawing board, well, it went for a run. The guest that decided to go for a run with the drawing board was Evan, the creator of Milk and Cheese comics. And bam, it was gone, and we had a lot of laughs. There was so many great memories at this event. I remember one time Kevin Eastman coming up and handing me an envelope. Earlier that day, I asked him for a sketch of the 4 turtles. So when he handed me that envelope, I thought it was going to be that sketch I asked for. And then he's like, "This is for your collection. You can open it now or later." I'm like, "Oh, I'll open it later." And so I ran off and went and talked to one of my friends. And on the way back up to the main floor, I'm finally opening up this envelope to find an original artwork page from Mirage Volume 1. My jaw dropped. I was not expecting it, but it really made my day. And that was the party in 1998. It was a fantastic artwork piece with all 4 turtles, Splinter, April, and Casey watching the second time around shop burn down after the foot attack. So, you know, this is very early on, issue 10. Wonderful stuff. Eastman and Laird art. It was signed to me, and it was a complete surprise. I had no clue he was going to do that. So I had to run up there and thank him. I was in such shock. In 1997, we had a lot of our friends there. In fact, we did a story about that in May 2012 on Cowabunga Corner. I wrote about that party because a lot of us got together from the TMNTL mailing list. We had our Leonardo, we had Ria Angelo, we had Mr. Lee too, a bunch of us, Ninjara. Everyone got together to hang out. It was a couple-day event that weekend because Kevin Eastman did a speech on Thursday, and then Saturday was the party. So we had a weekend in Northampton with a handful of Turtle fans. And I remember that weekend I got a lot of my scripts of Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation autographed by Kevin. So if you want to hear that story of how that happened, check out the write-up on cowabungacorner.com. And we also did a lot of stuff in 1999. We actually had 2 parties that year, 2 big parties as we were saying goodbye to the Words and Pictures. So there was the fan goodbye party, which was just a handful of Turtle fans that came for a Peter Laird autograph session for his book, Planet Racers. And we were able to get the museum for one day where we were able to hold a Ninja Turtle party on the 2nd floor, which has already been covered here on Cowabunga Corner. But that was one party out of 2. The other one is the closing party, which has also been covered here, where it was an invite-only member party, and it was the final time I went to the museum. But hard stuff, because the museum was really a great place. I remember that we started going to the parties in '94, and we had friends, Valerie and Arthur Falk, who would meet up with us and hang out. They were wonderful people. Valerie's father is the creator of the Phantom, and she was so nice to us. They were originally in line with us for an autograph session with Kevin, and then afterwards they just were hanging out with us at the parties, became really good friends, and then we made friends with a photographer who was going around for the Words and Pictures Museum, and his name's Jim. In fact, I know him still on Facebook. Jim is a great guy. He took a lot of wonderful pictures, always had a good camera to go around the event. We also met our friend Tom there, so we have a handful of very awesome, cool people that we were able to meet, and it was really a hangout. And my favorite hangout, I remember coming into this museum, and it would be the store. And I'd always look around to see if I could find something Turtles. And sadly, throughout the years, more and more of the Turtle stuff disappeared. When they were in the Roundhouse, they were selling animation cells. But once they moved to the new location, they stopped selling those animation cells, and I was sad. But they did have these little window decals that you could put in cars of the Turtles. And then when the Next Mutation rolled around, they had Words and Pictures shirts that would have the Turtles real small, and it would say Words and Pictures Museum around them. And for kids, they had the big pictures of the Turtles with Words and Pictures around it. I wish the adult shirts looked like that too, instead of the real tiny turtle up in the corner. I got one of those shirts. I believe it was a Raph shirt, and I brought it up to Kevin, and he drew a big turtle on the back. And I usually keep that shirt packed away because I don't want the autograph to fade away. I've never wore it, but it's one of those things that I got and had autographed at the party. Kevin also did a few sketches for me at the parties. So one of my earliest Kevin Eastman sketches, 1994, was done at the Words and Pictures party. So there was always something going on, and inside the store itself is the area where I'd normally get to say hi to people when I'd first get there, because most of the time it would start off down there and then we would mingle upstairs. So I'd see Fiona working down there, or I'd see Phil working down there and get to say my hellos. And after searching for whatever turtle items they may have. I'd wander over, take the elevator up to the 4th floor and come out, and that's where the party would start. And I was always an early bird. In fact, I got the Early Bird Award in 1995. That's a fun story. In 1995, I knew the date for the museum party, and I was planning for it, and we planned for it for a while. My mom was disappointed because she's a fan of the X-Files TV series with Mulder and Scully and all that. And there was an X-File convention the same weekend as the Words and Pictures Museum party, but it was down in Pennsylvania. So she wanted to go to this party, this convention, and I wanted to go to the Words and Pictures party, but she's also a big fan of the Words and Pictures Museum. So she knew the Words and Pictures Museum came first. So right before leaving for the Words and Pictures event, I got this mail thing in the mail advertising an autograph session coming up the following weekend. And I looked at it and I'm like, that's nice, that's really cool and all, but I can't do 2 weekends out there, so there's no way I'm going to this autograph session that they got. I'm just going to do the party, which is this weekend. I did not read the full flyer. I should have, but I didn't. Me, my mom, and my sister got in the car, and we went out to Northampton, got into our hotel room, and we head over to the Words and Pictures Museum, and they stop and stare at us and go, "What are you doing here?" "What do you mean, what are we doing here? The party's next weekend." "No, the party is this weekend." And it seems that little flyer that was sent to me was also the announcement that the Words and Pictures membership party was boosted over by 1 week. So I looked at my mom and, "What are we doing?" She goes, "We're going down to Pennsylvania. I'm going to go to this X-File Con." Well, my dad was making these dolls at the time, and they were missing a tooth. And it was called "The Tooth is Out There." They would have that on their t-shirts. And so they were aliens with missing teeth. Instead of "the truth is out there," the tooth is out there. You know, kind of an X-File spoof thing. And so my mom and sister threw some of these dolls together before we even started the trip. Well, they decided to bring some of these dolls to the X-File Con. So we went outside at our hotel that night with spray paint and painted these dolls out near the weeds. And so the weeds were very colorful from all the paint that we were doing. Got those dolls dried up, got their little shirts on them and everything. And the next morning we headed down for the convention. Well, we got there. There was a few different guests, and the one I remember most is Dean. He's one of the Long Gunmen. He looks a lot from like Wayne from Wayne's World. And that's how I would recognize him. And he was going around, and we decided to give the guests these dolls. Well, we gave Dean one of the dolls, and he was goofing off a lot. Like when he was leaving, he had it in a bag, and he goes, "I'm packing an illegal alien." So we had a lot of jokes and stuff that week, and a very fun time. And then when we headed back to the Northampton for the rest of the week, those weeds remained colorful all week long. We had a few other X-File experiences, which maybe I'll do as a write-up on cowabungacorner.com. But the day of the party showed up. And we show up there and going around, and they start announcing their awards. Well, one of the awards they announced was the Early Bird Awards. And Fiona was up there and told our full story of how we arrived a week early from Michigan and held up the award, which was the first page of Archie #5, where the turtles are at the aquarium looking in at the big man ray, and my jaw dropped. We're talking the colored version of the page, where if you pick up the line work, there's the nice splash color underneath. My full surprise really, that's the best way of explaining it. I was so shocked and surprised. This is one of the pieces that still remain hanging in my room to this day. For a long time in our old house, it hung in the living room. But when we moved here, I got to put it upstairs in my own room, and I love it. It's one of my favorite pieces in my collection. And after that, they came up with the Ivey Award that they gave us a couple years in a row, which ended up being animation cells, and it was for members who came the farthest for the party. But they stopped doing that near the end, and then people start coming from much farther. Like when Ninjara came in 1997, she traveled all the way in from Arizona, and Leonardo was coming in from Ohio at the time. She eventually moved out of Ohio even further west. So we had a lot of other people coming in further, but in the early days, we were the ones who hiked it and would drive out for the Words and Pictures Museum. That really is the party I miss the most. I don't have any other parties like that. I've never had another event like that, really. I've done other parties. I've had other meetups. I go to many events throughout the years. But the Words and Pictures Museum was more than just meeting up with friends. They were almost like a family. And when the museum closed, it was like going to a funeral. It's so hard. It was such a loss. That place was something that should have remained open. And if I had the money to fund it, to throw at Kevin and say, here, keep the place open, I would have done it. And I wish others were more willing to help support the museum. While, yes, Kevin created the turtles and could keep supporting it, it is nicer when people come together and help, so that it's not all on one person. And it was helping the community so much. Kevin's always been helping the communities of where he lives. If you watch the episode where I have the video from that last party, they were giving speeches of all the stuff that Kevin has done for Northampton. So you stand there and you wonder, why did it have to close? Why weren't there sponsors? But that is why it closed. It is very, very, very difficult to get help funding things. It is not as easy as somebody thinks. If you have money, people assume you should pay for it all if you want to see it done. But when you're working on an event like a museum or a convention or any type of party, it's a community event. You're doing it for a bunch of people. Meaning, if you can get the community to work together, it's a lesser load. And it's easier. And that way things get done better because we have help and support from the people all around. But without that help and support, when you put the burden all on one person, the weight gets so heavy that people can lose a great thing. And that's what happened with the Words and Pictures Museum. We all lost out. We all did. And it wasn't because there wasn't members. It wasn't because there wasn't people interested in this wonderful building that stored such fantastic artwork, brought in so many wonderful guests, amazing guests, that you could go and meet and greet and get autographs and have this great party every year. It was a place of enjoyment for everyone. But all it needed was some more help. I miss the Words and Pictures parties. I really do. And I really hope that someday I can start up a museum for Ninja Turtles in a more populated area to help keep the fundings up. Hopefully have some backers behind it so that we can keep it going. And if we do so, I want to be able to hold membership parties like the Words and Pictures did, to thank everyone who supports the Ninja Turtle Museum that I want to do. And I hope that all of our viewers here take a chance to be a part of this museum when we do start moving forward. And I do plan to start moving forward as soon as I find out the right road to go on. I am working at it all the time, and when the museum is done, It's not going to be something for me. I already can see this stuff. I'm already sharing this stuff. But I want it there for the fans, for the people interested in actually seeing the stuff and being there. I want to have it in a steady place where people can come and know that they're going to see these movie props or scripts or animation cells or toys and know that it will be there. And that if they have any questions, the people there can help. I want it to be like the Words and Pictures Museum. A place where the people working there enjoy working there. Enjoy the environment. And I want it something that the fans that go there can appreciate and enjoy as much as I enjoyed what Kevin Eastman did. I want to thank everyone who took part in making the Words and Pictures Museum. Kevin, Phil, Fiona, everyone. And I will keep sharing the words of the Words and Pictures Museum. I'll keep sharing pictures and stories on Cowabunga Corner, here on video and the website. Because there's so many more stories to share. And a lot of them are based around those parties, since I went every year. And maybe if I can get my hands on some of the people who work there, we'll try and do some interviews to say this is people who helped bring that part of my life alive. And thank you. So, now that I spoke all heavy about an art place, because the Words and Picture Museum was all about art, next week here on Cowabunga Corner, we are going to talk more about art, as we are going to share with you guys the Shell Shock Ninja Turtle Art Show that was held in Philadelphia, June 2011. This was a wonderful event. It was covered on Cinemassacre, and it's been covered before on our website, but now we're going to share the video. We got several interviews, we got a lot of footage of the art, and all of this is coming up next week here on Cowabunga Corner.